Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Engaged in Conversation. In this episode, I sit down with Phil Wild, CEO of James Cropper, a leading global manufacturer of advanced paper products, and we discuss how a manufacturer of over 200 years remains relevant and, more importantly, sustainable in today's marketplace.
Welcome to Engaged in Conversation, the podcast from Engaged Solutions Group.
Phil, good afternoon and welcome to our studio. It's a pleasure to meet you here and thank you for coming. We spoke fairly recently and it seemed really exciting to get you here and share your wisdom and expertise with our audience. Would you like to introduce yourself and we can start chatting about all the wonderful things that we want to discuss?
Well, thank you for inviting me. Phil Wild, I'm the Group CEO of James Cropper. I describe us as a company with heritage. So we're nearly 200 years old, and we have three different businesses. A paper business, which is the traditional part of the business where we originally started from. We have a packaging business which is called Colourform, and we have a technical fibre business which is manufacturing materials out of carbon fibres and polymers and so on. So we're about 650 strong. We're on the AIM market, and we have a turnover of just over 100 million. But uniquely, we've got a very strong family ownership as well. Our chairman is the sixth generation of the Croppers to run the company.
Wow, that's impressive, isn't it? I think with manufacturing particularly, you do feel that we're in a bit of a renaissance period in some respects because so much of our UK manufacturing has gone over the years. So to find out that we still have an amazing organisation here that's been here for over 200 years is almost unheard of.
And we're not far from here. So head office for us is in the Lake District.
Wow.
So what's that? An hour or so from here. We have a couple of other operations in the UK as well, and also manufacturing in the US. But I think the bit that also makes today's manufacturing different, particularly in the UK, is none of us are me too. We're all inventors. We're all scientists, we're all chemists, and we're all providing sort of unique properties and unique solutions to the customer. We can't compete on cost, and therefore we compete on quality, and we compete on innovation and new products coming to market.
And I think that's one of the things that when we first spoke and I read up about what you do, it really came to the fore, that word innovation. And I have a passion for that too. I think the history in the UK does. Tell me a bit about how you innovate.
Well, it's a great question. And innovation for us is in the culture. So let me just sort of step back in time a little. So the mill was established. It was established in 1845 under the Cropper ownership, but actually it went back at least 50 to 100 years prior to that. And it's constantly reinvented itself. So going right back, say, 200 years ago, it sits on the River Kent, so it uses the water either as a raw material or a power source. Then it was a power source. So it was manufacturing sickles that were used in crops. And then it reinvented itself and was grinding crops itself. So it was using the water as a power source, and then it reinvented itself to be able to use the water as a raw material, and was manufacturing fabrics. And what you're seeing is a company with a culture that's constantly reinventing itself and looking at things that are happening. We were the first organisation to manufacture different coloured materials. So, for example, during the war, when paper was actually too hard to come by, we were manufacturing things like airmail paper, so it was easier to send things across for letters and so on and so forth. But also because paper was hard to come by, we also used different materials. So we used things like sacks and fabrics to be able to make paper. And the And the irony is that that was there as an essential. Today, we're now taking other fabrics, used fabrics from other materials, like hotels or used clothes, and we're now using those fabrics to make paper again, but we're using it's what we call post-consumer waste. So we're trying to find a new lease of life, which is part of our ESG. It's our environmental ethos in terms of moving the company forward. Coming back to your question, I think having a culture of reinventing yourself and being agile and adaptable, for me, falls in a couple of areas. First of all, is the people we employ, and and I'm not afraid to say we're very discerning about who joins us. We want the best people we can, and I truly believe we have. We've got an amazing employees as part of the organisation, and to really empower employees to try things out. And also a culture that failure is okay, because if each time we're doing something that's right, we're probably not innovating. We're probably not testing things to the limit. We need to understand what doesn't work as well as what does work as well.
That sounds fantastic, and I think in this day and age, like you say, you've got to innovate, haven't you? You can't stand still and just keep doing the same thing.
And that's entirely right. And one of the things that we recognise, so I've been with the company for 10 years, and one of the things that we recognised shortly after I joined is we have 3 businesses, and each of the businesses has an R&D function, and they're there to reinvent the product, think about what the customer wants, maybe think about problems or issues we have, and reinvent the product, or perhaps reinvent the process. One of the things I recognised is that those activities more often were quite short-lived. So if I was an employee in one of those R&D functions, I'm probably working on a project that I've got to deliver next week, next month, or next quarter. Very rarely am I delivering anything that looks at next year, 3 years, or 5 years. And so we launched a new department in the company. We called it Technology and Innovation, and it's a fairly small team. And the unique thing was that they didn't have a day job, so there were no customers, no suppliers, no one ringing up on the phone saying that I've got a problem with an operation or I've got a problem with a product. Their job was to innovate, and so they were linking in with universities. In the UK, in fact, universities worldwide, research institutes. And I set them a series of objectives, and the objective was, we're looking for step change technology in the organisation in the medium to long term. What I mean in medium to long term is probably 3 to 5 years. And also I'm looking for a new arm of our business. So I'm looking to diversify the business to beyond where it is today. So that team, I think it's probably fair to say that the team went through a fairly cultural shock to begin with, because quite often we're very reactive of the jobs that we do. And I think putting yourself in that position, there's nothing to react to. You have to be very proactive. So you're driving your own agenda, and that takes a slightly different way of thinking. The net result of that is we did launch a new business, and actually Colourform was a business that we launched, and we launched also a series of step change technologies for the business as well. So, and it still exists today, and now it's in a different form, and we're moving it on to different things. But it was trying to take the spirit of the culture of innovation and really harness it in a very directive way, in order to drive growth for the business, but step change growth rather than incremental growth.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And in terms of engaging your workforce on that innovation piece, how do you do that? You obviously set up a specific team, but is there also a notion that anyone in the business can innovate? How do you foster that, the sense of collating ideas or allowing people to explore ideas that can lead to innovation?
Well, let me tell you a story about this. When I first joined, we wanted to talk about the values of our organisation. And today we talk about sort of purpose and values. Then we were talking about mission and values. And we sat around together as a team of board directors around the board table, and we brainstormed our values, and we cracked it within about an hour. And we had 12 values, and we typed them, and they're beautifully typed up. Put in a frame and put on the wall of the boardroom, and those were our values. And you kind of know where I'm going with this. Clearly, it didn't work, and it didn't drive the engagement. And so I know, and we obviously realised that. But it was a good start to sort of get ourselves thinking about that. But during COVID, we were going through a difficult time, like most manufacturers were, as demand was struggling, and I chose that was the time to come back and relook at what our values were as an organisation. And so we took an entirely different approach, which arguably could have been quite challenging through COVID, but we decided to do it online. And so we ran a whole series of workshops with about 60 employees. So 60 employees for us is about 10% of our workforce. But it was 60 employees that we chose quite carefully. So we wanted a gender balance. We wanted an age balance. We wanted a geography balance. We have employees obviously in the UK, but also in Hong Kong and in the US and in France and in Italy as well. And we wanted people from different businesses. We wanted people who have just started, and we wanted people who have been there for 45 years. Yeah. So we chose a team, and we ran it for, at least half a dozen workshops. And we were really brainstorming all the different things that we were, what was our values and what was our purpose. And there were two real key learnings for me on that. One was when we were asking the question what our values were, we actually said not what our values should be, but what are our values that have taken us 200 years to this point. Yeah. And for me, that was a kind of a light bulb moment saying, obviously that's the right question.
Yeah,
because we've been inventors all the way through. And the other area, and we had a discussion as directors, and we said, actually, what we want to do in this meeting is listen as hard as we can, as opposed to verbalise what we think. We want to listen to our employees. So we went through that exercise, and we came out with 3 values to our organisation. We had forward thinking, caring, and responsible, and that's it. And 3, we can all remember them, and it's the narrative behind the 3 that made it really valuable in terms of, we understand what we mean by, and that to come back to your point about innovation, forward thinking is about innovation. Where's the market going? Where are we in that position? How are the global mega trends changing in terms of whether it's climate or whether it's medical care or whether it's an aging population? How do we, and that became our mantra about how we think about things. As is caring, and caring you could perceive to be could be loving, and for me, caring is doing the right thing. So if I was being caring for you, and an example. And maybe you just had your lunch and you've got a bit of spinach on your tooth. If I was nice, I probably wouldn't say anything to you. I'd just smile. If I'm caring, I'd take absolutely just let you know you've got that. And so it's about doing the right thing. For example, if there's an issue on safety, we will address the safety issue if someone's doing things the wrong way. The responsibility piece is what is the right thing to do within the community. What's the right thing to do for our employees, and what's the right thing to do environmentally with the world, and that's where a lot of our ESG agenda has come from in terms of looking at responsibility as well. So, an entirely different process that we went to, and for me the testament was, now when we're engaging with employees, I'm now being told what our values are, not the other way around. And we had a team of graduates recently who were presenting back on an inclusion and diversity study that they were doing, and they were just walking through where it sat with all our values. And for me, I'm thinking, they're really starting to engage. That whole value set is now engaged within our organisation.
I really like that story. It's so powerful, isn't it? Because if you've been trading for that long, you're absolutely right. Looking back is actually quite powerful, isn't it? To roll up what we've done so well for 200 years, because clearly the undercurrent of that is the magic of your organisation.
Totally.
So
totally.
yeah, and I really like that. And it's interesting because innovation, you hear about it a lot, and there's lots of different ways you can engage staff to collate innovation and enable it to happen and flourish. And I like the way the approach you've taken is to take that subset of a cross population and sort of put them as an innovation group, an innovation committee. How did you operate that, and for how long? And is that a continual thing, or is it always happening? Those same 60 people?
Well, the 60 people were a cross section of the workforce that we used to do the values exercise. The sort of the core innovation team is quite a small group, but for me, innovation is a culture, and I would expect us all to be innovating. So thinking creatively, trying things out, taking a risk, all the sort of things that sometimes when you're at school you're told not to do. Be safe, don't take the risk, don't fail. And we're saying, actually, do take the risk, be prepared to fail. Now, clearly that all needs to be done in a safe and controlled way, but it's a wholly acceptable way of doing it. Because if we're focused on getting things right each time, it is going to stifle our innovation, it's going to stifle our creativity, and we're not going to move things forward. And that's the culture we're trying to instill across all of our employees of how we operate.
I suppose that one thing that I'm drawn to is how you do that, though, because I get that you saying that out loud and saying to the team, just experiment or whatever. But everyone's busy, everyone has a job to do, and so how do you do that? How do you create space for people to innovate, and then how do you monitor that and link that together through the organisation, make it come to life? How do you do that?
So I think a couple of things. I mean, one is I don't want to give the sort of the utopia that everything is perfect, and for sure, there's lots of opportunities to improve. But what I'm talking about is a culture, and and leadership is a key part of that. Being able to not necessarily to say, look, hey, I'm now going to create you some time to innovate. But hey, let's have a discussion about different ways that we can do things, and let's try it out. And if it fails, I'm not going to have a reprimanding discussion. I'm going to have a discussion about, well, what did we learn from that? Yeah. Because it was done in the spirit of trying things out and developing. So we're trying to instill that culture across the organisation of empowering and engaging, of trying to do things in different ways. Now that might be your day job, or it might be just you're running one of the machines and you're trying things out in a different way. So, like I say, but we have got further to go on this. So we're far from a perfect organisation in this, but we're learning about it, and we're understanding what works, and also what makes us different, and harnessing what makes us different as well, and celebrating it.
Yeah. No, I love it. I think I was drawn to, I'm sure when I was doing my MBA, we did a whole thing on innovation. And one of the case studies was with 3M. And they had a particularly strong culture around innovation. And the example was how they invented the Post-it note. And that was the kind of backdrop to that. And you're from 3M, but you spent a large chunk of your career
just 20 years
at 3M. Yeah. So you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but I'm sure I remember reading that their way of implementing that sort of innovative culture was to encourage people to take 10% of their time. And it was okay to take 10% of their time to basically do whatever they want. Which would lead to inventing something maybe, and innovating and trying out new things. And I suppose the reason why I asked specifically is, you have that background with 3M, so is that from there? But is also just giving our audience some techniques or some guidance around, because talking about innovative cultures, but specifically how you implement them is actually quite hard and challenging, especially when we're in a sort of lean environment that we're all running our business against. Everyone's super busy. You kind of say to your staff, come on, innovate, and they say, yeah, well, I've got way too much work already. When do you want me to innovate then? And that's the challenge, I suppose. I wonder if you'd had any thing to share around that.
So I think at 3M a great organisation, and 3M had a mantra of 10% of your time you can take out, and that I think that in reality I think it only worked in certain departments. I don't think it was across the entire organisation. But I think for us, it is about a way of thinking. And for me, it is a very much a leadership attribute of how I give my team the autonomy and the sort of questions I'm asking. The open questions. How we've got a problem. How are we going to solve that? What different ideas have we got to resolve it? Right. Well, let's try. So I'm fostering a culture of trying things out, as opposed to maybe a more traditional leadership approach is, look, I'm actually quite bright and I've worked out what the solution is, and I'm now going to tell you to implement it. And by the way, it kind of needs doing by 4 o'clock because we're all on deadlines. Yeah. And actually that's a single point of failure, because if I've got it wrong, it's not going to work. And with the greatest of respect, what do I know about how the machine runs for 24/7? Because I'm not the one that's running it. So it is, for me, a key part of that is the leadership capability of really harnessing the culture and developing that technique to really draw out from the team having a safe environment for the team to have a very open discussion about different ideas and trying them as well. So there's that part of it, and also being open to other ideas. So to give you another example, I think we need to put our money where our mouth is when we talk about are we open to doing things differently and so on, and just say perhaps talking about our values, and maybe just let me play to the responsibility piece. So we've got now quite a strong ESG agenda. I would have called it CSR a few years ago, and it's morphed and it's developed and it's enriched. And as part of our ESG agenda, we're looking at the sort of businesses that we operate in, and so we've done an exercise recently of what I would call ethical or unethical businesses, and so we ran an exercise. Say, well, actually, we want to just check that we're okay. We're not in any business sectors that we shouldn't be. Thinking there's no way that we manufacture paper and we manufacture packaging materials and also we manufacture carbon fiber products as well. I think we surely can't be in any areas, and so we started to highlight areas that we felt as an organisation were unethical. So gambling, tobacco, animal testing, weapons, and the list goes on, and we found some, and we were manufacturing a paper that went into the production of a gun cartridge. We were manufacturing a material that went into the filter of a cigarette. So actually, very clearly, and that's now, frankly, we didn't know that because a lot of our material sometimes goes to a third party.
Yeah, that's it. You don't know,
and then further up the supply chain. So we had to do some deep study, and we exited those businesses.
Wow.
And so that's what I'm talking about, putting our money where our mouth is, and we talked to our organisation about that, because clearly from a growth perspective, that's the wrong thing to do. But for our values perspective, it was absolutely the right thing to do.
I like that. And I think one of the things that we can talk about, because you have such strong values, you can see and feel that, and when you engage with your business. And I think from a staff retention and recruitment perspective, having those values, especially nowadays, is really important.
Totally.
People want to be part of an organisation that really has genuine values. how important do you think that is for differentiating a manufacturing company in the UK when you're trying to grow staff here?
Well, I think as we started this conversation, what's the most important thing on innovation? Well, it's people.
Yeah.
And I say we're very discerning on who joins us, and I think you're right. Having a strong set of values is a great proposition for employees. So let me give you another example. We were approached by the community. In fact, actually, let me just back up from that for a minute. Our head office is just outside Kendal, and that's where 90% of our employees are based. And we're actually in a village just outside Kendal, so quite rural. Just outside the national Lake District, and most of our employees will live within 10 miles of our operation, and so I think to some degree, uniquely, there is a much higher responsibility around the community, and because we've been employing the children and parents and grandparents through the ages, and so that resonates through the community, because they will still be in the community, and the local school will have parents that work at the facility as well. So a very, very strong responsibility. And just to choose one example, we were approached by the community saying, actually, we're quite interested in putting some solar panels on your roof, and we've got quite a lot of roofs. And so we took them up on the challenge and said, yeah, actually, we will do that. And we've expanded it and expanded it and expanded it. So now we're generating a megawatt of solar energy. In fact, it's one of the largest roof-based solar energy schemes in the UK.
Wow.
We now guarantee we're going to buy all that energy because we use it for our own purposes. At a good market rate. All the profits then go back into the community. And an example is the local school restocked their library based on the profits that were coming out from the solar scheme. Now, it could have been very easy for us to say, actually, that solar scheme is a really good idea, and we're a big business, and we're going to buy them, and actually we're going to save money on electricity, and we're going to go green. And it just wasn't the right thing to do. And just sort of sound bites like of I'd say it's a little thing, it was quite a lot of work involved. But the sort of loyalty that drives within a community, because the children will be talking about that, because the teachers are telling this has been funded from those solar schemes that you can just see from the windows, and then the parents are working in our operation there as well. So it drives a whole sort of ethos of loyalty to the community as well.
I love that. And in our world, we talk about engagement across the three audiences that matter most. So your colleagues, your customers, and the communities that engage on your brand. And that's just a great example of how you can engage with your community. I really like that. And you've clearly got a deep rooted sense of loyalty and relationship with the local community, and obviously wider. I think the challenge for us is that how you can use digital to expand that and continue that engagement away from the physical and the local, because obviously you're global as well. So how you expand that and maybe copy that. Have you copied that example on some of your other sites?
Not to the same degree, because we haven't got the same map, because 90% of our employees are on the website, but the same principle applies.
Yeah.
That within our other sites, most people live fairly locally. We're looking to do sort of local support work that's happening to those areas as well, to a much lesser degree than perhaps we've done in our head office. But the principle still applies to do that. Yeah,
I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, so I think the innovation thing, which is one of the first words that we talked about and that came out here, was really powerful and is clearly a big part of your differentiation and part of your culture. You've mentioned a few times the sustainability word, I think, and that comes across as well from your branding, from your site. And obviously, when you look at packaging, which is one of the things your business is involved with, there's an immediate kind of link to, well, hold on, packaging, sustainability, and gosh, you only have to look in your own bin at home. It amazes me how quickly it fills up. You know, I just can't believe how much stuff, how much packaging there is in our day-to-day lives. And I wonder whether Apple is partly to play for. I think they're probably one of the brands that I see, and I know it's probably affiliated with the tech space where we sit, but you might appreciate it, is that they really innovated around packaging, didn't they? They really, when that sense of when you brought your iPad home and the amazing box and the beautiful engineering of opening it and all the way it was put together, and every element of that was all immaculately packaged.
Fantastically engineered.
Yeah, it really was, wasn't it? And I think that set a new bar, really, didn't it, into the world of packaging and what it meant and how it carried your brand and how it carried your ethos there. Would you concur with that, or have you got some better examples of where packaging really innovated?
I mean, look, we know Apple well, and I think they have been pioneers of removing single-use plastics, and their whole portfolio is very well engineered, and so is their packaging. But let me give you a couple of examples, because I'm absolutely not a fan of greenwashing. And I think we need to be authentic to who we are and what we do. And to give you some examples of that, let me give you sort of two or three examples. So take the paper business. So paper is manufactured from cellulose, so trees. And when you fell a tree, for purposes, the bottom part of the tree is used for construction, the middle part of the tree is used for furniture, and all the spindly branches that you couldn't really do anything with are then used for paper. And for every one tree that we use, we plant 3. And that's part of the FSC standard of paper. So we never buy, and that in itself is a good sustainable story, because essentially using trees, it's a big farmer's field, more planted and it becomes, the whole thing becomes sustainable. But we didn't think that was good enough, and so we started to look at other materials. And we were looking at what other materials are out there that perhaps are a source of waste that maybe we could use to manufacture paper. And one of the products was coffee cups. And so we started to develop a process to be able to recycle a coffee cup, because a coffee cup it's coated in plastic on the inside for waterproofing. And so really, once it's used, it's only got 2 purposes. One is landfill, or the other one is burn it, because you can't recycle it because it's a mixed material. So we developed a process that extracts the plastic from the inside of the coffee cup. That then gets passed on to a third party, and it gets made into carpets or insulation for wire and different applications like that. And then we're using the fibres in there to be able to put back into paper. So today, we take 500 million coffee cups from McDonald's, Starbucks and Pret, Costa, all those types of organisations, and just using a different term, we upcycle the coffee cup back into a better product than it came from. So let me give you an example. Burberry, a prestige brand. And so if you're shopping at Burberry and you come out and you've got a Burberry bag, and I'm talking about a retail bag that you bought your whatever, your shoes or your Mac in. Now that Burberry bag actually is 50% coffee cup. A Selfridges bag is 50% coffee cup. A Mulberry bag is 50% coffee cup. And as are many other brands as well. Now, I mean, the technical term is post-consumer waste, but actually, what we've done is we've taken a product that would have gone to landfill, or it would have gone to for incineration, and we're providing another lease of life. And moreover, that bag can then be recycled back into other products because there's no
So
contaminants
it's
in
never
those bags.
ending.
And it continues to that way. We've just launched another product called Apparel, and that is taking used denim. So we're taking old jeans and old jackets. They're getting reprocessed because denim is cotton is cellulose, and it all comes from plants. And there are more clothes in the world today than in fact, there are more clothes today that would clothe 6 generations of the world are actually in circulation. So
You're kidding.
there's an enormous excess in clothing. And so what we're trying to do is use some of those used clothing to be able to manufacture paper. So we've just launched a new product it's actually 20% denim in the product as well. And actually, there's a slightly different feel to the product because there's some cotton in there as well. So it gives some uniqueness. So it just gives you some sort of feel about. And this is what I'm saying. This is why I'm very anti greenwashing. The recycling operation that we have for cups is in with our facility. You come in and you'll see coffee cups after coffee cups stacked in bales. You'll see our recycling operation. You'll see where we're actually manufacturing the product that we're producing from denim as well. And just to use one other example, the original reason why we started Colourform, and this comes back to your Apple discussion, was we were looking for an alternative to single-use plastics that they use in packaging. So, for example, if you were to buy, a good example would have been a mobile phone, but if you were to buy, say, a perfume or a fragrance, and it comes in a beautiful box, and you open the box and you take out the fragrance, and inside that box is a vacuum-formed plastic because that's where the bottle sits in it, and it kind of stops it rattling around. Now, the issue with that box is it's mixed waste, and it's very, very difficult to recycle mixed waste. So really what you should be doing after you've got your box, you'd go in and you'd pull out that vacuum-formed piece of plastic, you put that in the plastic waste, and you put the other bit in the paper waste. It's just not going to happen, or it's certainly not going to happen in the majority of cases. So we developed a moulding process for paper. So we call it 3D moulding. You have a male and a female mould, and you're compressing pulp together to create different shapes. Now, the inside of an Apple packaging is that process, because it's actually it's very well engineered. It's a fantastic finish. We can make it in any colour we want. So now we're producing a product that takes out all the vacuum formed plastic from packaging. You replace the product in there, and for sure you've got a case for you can put your perfume in. It's not going to rattle around because it's in there. You put the top on. The difference now is it's all paper. So you take your perfume out, you use it, and you just recycle it. And you don't have to worry about taking the thing apart and so on. So again, it's just 2 real examples of things that we're doing. And sustainability and innovation, for me, it's the same topic.
It is. They're hugely interlinked, especially in your world. You're right. I mean, it makes you think, with this level of innovation, at what point do you think we'll stop worrying about the waste from packaging in the sense we are now? Because even your story about the coffee cups, it was only recently there was a big campaign about having a single-use coffee cup instead of going in and using all the paper ones. But you're saying, well, that's fine because we recycle them all anyway. So do I need to worry about that anymore? It's that whole cyclic effect of we create the problem and then you solve it, and then everyone's like, oh, okay, cool, so I can carry on having my Starbucks then and not worrying about it.
I think having a healthy anxiety is a good thing. I mean, for sure, we'll take more coffee cups, but let's assume that there are 20 billion coffee cups used maybe every week or every 2 weeks around the world. That is a problem, and so going in and using a single use cup, of course, that's a good idea. And in actual fact, what is the most environmentally friendly packaging you can have? Well, it's no packaging, and it's reusing. Now, the difference is that products are bought on aesthetics, and packaging is part of the aesthetics. So it is part of the appeal of the product. So I don't see packaging ever truly disappearing. But where you can minimise packaging, the better. So let me give you one other example. We've done some work recently with Moet Hennessy, and one of their champagnes is a product called Ruinart, and
It's one of my favourite. I love it.
oh, well, there you go. Blanc de Blanc, and that comes in. It comes in a beautiful box. So just a little bit higher than the champagne bottle itself, and you can open the doors and you can close the doors, and they kind of close with a clunk. And they do that because they've got magnets in the doors, and the bottle sits nicely in there because it's got a nice vacuum form plastic base to it, and it clips into a nice vacuum form top on it as well. So we worked with Moet Hennessy and the Ruinart team to totally redesign that product. And what we came up with is what we call a second skin. So now the box doesn't exist, and it's like a clamshell that sits around the bottle itself, that's made out of moulded fibre. So it's from our Colourform range, and it looks amazing. And because we're very good at engineering finishes on paper, we took a digital image of the inside of the cellars of where the Ruinart is stored, and we've put that as an embossed pattern on the outside of the packaging.
That's really cool.
And it looks out of this world. So it has got the brand appeal. Now the difference is it's 9 times lighter than the box, and it's what we call mono-material. So it's totally recyclable. So we've taken weight out, and we've got a product that's completely recyclable, reusable, compostable, unlike the box, which you can't because it's got magnets in it, it's got plastics in it, and so on. So, and that was a point on the, it's likely that packaging will always feature a part of selecting a product, because when you look at a bottle of Ruinart, despite it's your favourite or not, but if you look at it, quite often champagne is a gifting product,
yes,
or it's a celebration product.
Yes,
so the aesthetics are important, and our goal here is to make the aesthetics look as beautiful as possible, but as environmentally as friendly as possible as well. And that for me, that was such a great example of where we did that with Ruinart.
It's a brilliant story. I love it. I love all these stories of innovation and how they link to sustainability and all of that good stuff. I suppose in my head, I mean, you're sat here in our green screen studio. We call it our augmented reality studio. We like to think we're quite innovative as a business. We've pioneered the use of augmented reality in engagement platforms at the moment. So I look at that opportunity and think, ideally, how long will it be before there's no packaging? And I know that's not going to work with everything, but in my head, I live in a world where I point my phone at an object and I can do whatever packaging you want. I can make that object come to life. I can animate it. I can engage with you in a whole host of different ways via technology. Is that something that I don't really see people doing that at the moment that much? Is that something that you think could be a growth area for the packaging industry?
I think there's a lot of different platforms. I mean, for me, for a product, there's nothing quite like the physical touch and the appeal of a product. But also, you start to think about, well, how can technology play a part in that as well? So then you start to think about things like smart packaging. And what I mean by smart packaging is, I'm buying a product, and maybe it's a food source, and I can maybe use my phone to just to check, and within the packaging there's some device in there that is tracking that product as well. So an example would be, I can click on a chicken, and I know how long that chicken has actually been in the shelf. I know the sort of temperature it's been stored at, and it will tell me actually it's green. That's okay. It's been there for 2 days. It's been stored below 4 degrees, or actually it comes up red. It's actually been there for 3 weeks, and it's got up to 20 degrees because the freezer went off. So I think there are different applications on technology And also authentication is becoming a much bigger topic as well with fraudulent products. So whether that's in
definitely.
in pharmaceuticals or or other tax related products as well, and technology plays a key part in that. And I would describe that as authentication of a product.
Yeah, and you see Amazon innovate. I mean, gosh, I think it's only Decathlon that have the RFID on every single product, and that's something that they talked about. The notion that when you go shopping, you put it all in the trolley and just walk right out, and you don't have to do anything. I still amazes
does freak
me.
you out when you first do that, because I did that, and I was where's the price? Where's the tag?
Yeah, but you love it, and you think, well, it's the technology's there. Why isn't it being more widely used? You know, it's just so much easier, wouldn't it? But
precisely, and I think it's there's got to be a need to use it.
Yeah.
And there's also got to be a customer acceptance that it works. There's an infrastructure that needs to be put in place. So the element of tax already exists. So you'd see it on perhaps a cigarette packet. Not that we would work in that area, but it would be to check actually that the tax had been paid on it, the import tax, and they were legal and so on. But I think what we will see moving forward is a lot more technology involved. So maybe to give you another example. I'm buying a piece of equipment. So I'm buying, maybe it's a new TV I'm buying. And when I'm buying a new TV, and I don't know whether you find the same, but you've got the physical product in there and you've got the packaging around it. But then you've got pages and pages in English and in Dutch and German.
Yeah.
And
you never read any of it.
And precisely.
Yeah.
And so actually, what is stopping me from having my phone and scanning it, and I can actually read it all online.
That's it.
And that's a technology that's starting to emerge now. So maybe it's a QR code that's on the TV, and I can just click it, and I can actually work my way through and doing it. Equally with some visual products, or even things like smart cams and so on. It'll talk to you now and say, welcome, press this button, and so on. So you can see that sort of technology taking a much bigger role in in terms of product selection and application.
I think you're right, and I think that's the thing that gets my mind racing, because I think it's ultimately the segue of the physical and the digital combining, and you're absolutely nailing that whole physical innovation, and it's fantastic to see, isn't it? So it'd be really interesting to see what happens in 3 to 5 years. I think with augmented reality, it will take that long for it to be mainstream. And I do wonder if we're going to look at retail and packaging in a whole different way.
I'm sure we are. And I think the use of data is now far more readily accessible, and we see that the way that retailers are now positioning products, because they'll understand what sells where. And I think that'll form part of the packaging as well. But we're very much focused on the physical product, and in a sustainable and an environmental way, in a responsible way. Making some of those products look as beautiful as possible, but an alternative to perhaps removing some products that weren't. So single-use plastics and what I call non-mono materials. So materials with different sorts of products in there that are very hard to recycle.
Brilliant. So would you just like to share with us then your top 3 priorities around how you engage your workforce?
So, I think probably my first one there was about communication. Explaining to our team of the reality of what's happening, and doing that in a transparent way, which actually would be my second area. To be very authentic. We talked previously about greenwashing, which I'm very anti. It's doing things the right, and when you're communicating, explaining things as they are, the good areas and the bad, and also as we're going through that is really listening to employees. So that would be my third area of but I mean active listening, really understanding, and not just single employees, but the trend of things that are happening across your organisation and acting on it as well. So communication, transparency, and listening.
Fantastic. I really like those. Great. Phil, it's been fascinating talking with you today, and I could literally sit here and talk about technology and innovation all day long. It's so brilliant to hear about a manufacturing company that's doing so well. So fantastic. Really appreciate your time.
Good. I've enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to Engaged in Conversation. It was presented by our CEO, Phil Wedgwood. For more news and updates on Engage, visit our website at engagesolutionsgroup.com.